84. Pitchpoling. To make them run easily and swiftly, the axles of carriages are anointed, and for much the same purpose, some whalers perform an analogous operation upon their boats. They grease the bottom. Nor is it to be doubted that as such procedure can do no harm, it may possibly be of no contemptible advantage, considering that oil and water are hostile, that oil is a sliding thing, and that the object view is to make the boat slide bravely. Queequeg believed strongly in anointing his boat, and one morning not long after the German ship Jungfrau disappeared, took more than customary pains in that occupation, crawling under its bottom where it hung over the side, and rubbing in a unctuousness as though diligently seeking to ensure a crop of hair from the craft's bald keel. He seemed to be working in obedience to some peculiar presentiment, nor did it remain unwarranted by that event. Toward noon whales were raised, but so soon as the ship sailed down to them, they turned and fled with swift precipitancy, a disordered flight as Cleopatra's barges from Actium. Nevertheless, the boats pursued, and Stubbs was foremost. By great exertion, Tashtego at last succeeded in planting one iron, but the stricken whale, without all that sounding, still continued his horizontal flight with added fleetness. Such unintermitted strainings upon the planted iron must sooner or later inevitably extract it. It became imperative to lance the flying whale, or be content to lose him. But to haul the boat up to his flank was impossible, he swam so fast and furious. What then remained? Of all the wondrous devices and dexterities, the sleights of hand, and countless subtleties, to which the veteran whaleman is so often forced, none exceed the fine maneuver with the lance called pitchpoling. Small sword or broadsword in its exercises boasts nothing like it. It is only indispensable with an inveterate running whale. Its grand fact and feature is the wonderful distance to which the long lance is accurately darted from a violent rocking, jerking boat under extreme headway. Steel and wood included, the entire spear is some 10 or 12 feet in length. The staff is much slighter than that of a harpoon, and also of a lighter material, pine. It is furnished with a small rope called a warp of considerable length, by which it can be hauled back to the hand after darting. But before going further, it is important to mention here that though the harpoon may be pitch-pooled in the same way with the lance, yet it is seldom done, and when done, it is still less frequently successful, on account of the greater weight and inferior length of the harpoon as compared with the lance, which in effect becomes a serious drawback. As a general thing, therefore, you must first get fast to a whale before any pitch-pooling comes into play. Look now at Stubb, a man from whom his humorous, deliberate coolness and equanimity in the direst emergencies was specifically qualified to excel in pitch-pooling. Look at him. He stands upright in the tossed bow of the flying boat, wrapped in fleecy foam. The towing whale is 40 feet ahead. Handling the long lance lightly, glancing twice or thrice along its length to see if it is exactly straight, Stubb whistlingly gathers up a coil of warp in one hand so as to secure its free end in his grasp, leaving the rest unobstructed. Then, holding the lance full before his waistband's middle, he levels it at the whale. When covering with it, he steadily depresses the butt end in his hand, thereby elevating the point till the weapon stands firmly balanced in his palm, 15 feet in the air. He minds you somewhat of a juggler balancing a long staff on his chin. Next moment, with a rapid, nameless impulse, in a superb, lofty arc, the bright steel spans the foaming distance and quivers into the spot of the whale. Instead of sparkling water, he now spouts red blood. That drove the spigot out of him, cried Stubb. Till July's immortal 4th, all fountains must run wine today. Would now it were old Orleans whiskey, or old Ohio, or unspeakable old Nangahala. Then, Tashtego, lad, I'll have ye hold a cannikin to the jet, and we'll drink round it. Yea, verily, hearts alive, we'd brew choice punch in the spread of this spout-hole there, and from that live punch-bowl quaff the living stuff. Again and again to such gamesome talk the dexterous dart is repeated, the spear returning to its master like a greyhound held aloft on a skillful leash. The agonized whale goes into a flurry, the tow line is slackened, and the pitch-poler drops his stern, folds his hand, and mutely watches the monster die. Okay. So normally they harpoon the whale, they pull up close, and they just stab it like this a bunch of times. Here he's talking about pitch pulling, where he takes 15-foot spear, essentially, and unlike the harpoon, this doesn't have a barbed head, just has a plain sharp head, and it has a longer stick but lighter stick. And it's a lighter head than the harpoon, not a big honking thing to stay stuck in there. And the idea is that you take it, you throw it into the whale, and you make a little cut, and you pull it back, and you make another little cut, and eventually you'll get enough little cuts to kill the whale. And he talks about how the Stubb holds it, and he lifts the thing up, and he's holding the end of it. He just kind of tosses. I'm not exactly sure how that works, because it seems like he's balancing on his hand, and then, or balancing it on his hand, and then like that. You got to get the longer you get more force, you build up, throw things faster, the more time you have to push against them, which is why you see a baseball player pull from back here and go all the way forward. So he's adding more speed to the baseball from the whole 6.5 feet, from all the way behind him to all the way in front of him. And actually, if he leans back, he can get another couple of feet, and then takes a half step and gets another couple of feet. So you can have like 10 feet of force being put into a baseball like that. And I imagine Stubb was doing much the same thing with the pitch pulling spear. So here they have another whale. We'll see if they get this one on board and what happens with this one, because so far they've caught a sperm whale, a right whale, and then a sperm whale went down to the bottom, or on its way down to the bottom. We'll see if that comes back. But he is also talking about drinking the blood of the whale like it were punch, which sounds kind of nasty, but blood sausage is good. So blood is edible. A lot of cultures eat blood. I don't think Stubb is actually talking about literally eating blood, though I imagine some of the people on board the ship would probably go for that. That is pitch pulling. Quick thing I forgot to mention. Queequeg, waxing the bottom of the boat or oiling the bottom of the boat. That actually works. And Ishmael thinks, that can't possibly work. Yeah, oil is slippery, but oil and water don't mix. And because oil and water don't mix, the oil isn't going to be allowed to slide over the water because the two of them don't mix. Well, that's actually kind of precisely why oiling the bottom of the boat helps. Because the oil and the water don't mix. And part of the friction of the ship going through the boat, the ship, the whatever, going through the water, is that the water binds at a kind of microscopic level. It binds at the atomic level a little bit to the surface of the boat. But because the oil is on the boat, and the oil doesn't bind with the water, you don't have the van der Waals forces, because the electrons are properly paired in the oil and not properly paired in the water. You don't get the van der Waals force, you don't get the bonding. So because you don't get the bonding, the oiling the boat actually helps. They actually have been experimenting with this on coatings of torpedoes, where they coat the torpedoes with something like Teflon, which just like repels everything. And so you have these Teflon-headed torpedoes that actually go faster than the torpedoes without the Teflon coating. So Queequeg was right. Ishmael was wrong. Ha!